Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the XeroTalk patron only show. And with me today is Alex, the Linux tube. Okay, pointing
Hey
the
guys,
wrong
how you
direction.
guys doing? Glad
Hey
to be on the
Alex,
show, man.
I've been wanting to have you on for quite a while. You're an up and coming YouTube channel just like I am. So why not help each other out? Get your keep pointing to the wrong direction. Uh, why not help each other out, help you grow, help myself grow at the same time? So two birds with one stone.
Exactly. I think that's what I like best about this community. This is what this community should be. You know, uh, I'm actually a 20-year vet of Linux and have used it for a long, long time. And one of the things that I used to hate about Linux is you had those RTFM guys. That's all they would answer to new and upcoming people. It was always like, don't you know this stuff? And instead of helping each other, which is what Linux should be, a helping hand community.
You are right about what you said, but you just called me out. Uh,
Sorry.
I'm the type of guy that sends users to RTFM only when it's there. When it's a smaller issue that I can handle, because I myself am not a developer, as
Hmm.
I said it multiple times over. Uh, I know what works for my hardware and the way XeroLinux behaves on my hardware. I'm not fortunate enough to own like 50 desktops and 100 laptops and things like that. So specifically when it comes to hybrid graphics on laptops, that's a nightmare all on its own. That's a big can of worms. Uh, Without a
Yeah.
laptop in hand, the only laptop I have is the Steam Deck. So,
That's a nice
but
laptop to kind of have.
as I say a lot on my streams, I'm a cheater. Uh,
Right.
I can't play games without cheats because I come from a cinema background, and you're old enough, I think, to remember a movie or a film, as I call it, because films are for the art, movies are for the commercial gain.
Correct.
Uh, but you remember a film by the name of Cinema Paradiso by Tornatore?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I imagine that kid being me, minus the
Okay, I
golden
get it.
ticket.
I
Minus
get
the
it.
golden ticket. I was
Minus the
helping my
golden ticket. Yeah.
grandfather. We
Yeah.
owned the cinema. We owned the theater.
No
Uh,
kidding.
in my hometown here, like 2 minute walk.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
we owned that, and I was helping my grandfather roll the films, the negatives onto
Hmm.
the projector, and it was a 250 seater, not a big one,
Right.
uh, but that is me. I come from a cinema background. My dad was a commercials producer director. My
Right.
mom was an actress. My sister
Oh
used to be a
wow.
director. So I was in that world, immersed in that world where the story was forefront, in the center. So I play games for the story, not to have to die and repeat and rinse and repeat. It's like taking a 30-second scene and putting it on repeat for me when I die in a game.
Right.
That
Gotcha.
takes me out of the game immediately. I'm no longer enjoying. Like if I take
Right.
my Steam Deck, I play a game and I die, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I
Yeah.
don't continue the game.
I'm the same way. I'm not a huge video gamer. About me, I got more of a music background, doing Vox and stuff, singing rock and roll, that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed, like you said, the difference between a movie and a film. I like the artistic value of things as well, and the games that have a lot of the artistic value are the ones that I find myself going to, like Elder Scrolls, Oblivion, those kind of
And
games. I
I saw your
really,
Fable stream, one of my favorite
yeah,
games of all time. And
yeah, and
the Fable
Fable.
2, Fable 2 Anniversary Edition, not the one, not
That's
the
the one
3.
I actually streamed. Was my gameplay of Fable 2 Anniversary.
Yeah, like the 3 was all about the graphics. The story took a backseat, and the one was okay. Both were equal, but the graphics were too old for me to enjoy. So
Right.
Fable 2 hit the nail right on the head. Story wise, it was very uh, immersive. You are
Hmm.
within the game, and of course, I cheated. I maxed out all my stats. I had all the weapons from
Yeah.
the get go. I had all the
Yeah.
magicka and everything. But yeah, I'm more a story driven guy because there's a film that marked me for life. A film that marked me for life.
Hmm.
I don't know if you know a film called The Antichrist.
No, I did not know that film.
Lars von Trier. Lars von
Lars
Trier,
who? Von
von
Trier?
Trier, von Trier. Yeah,
Okay.
he made a film called Melancholia. Melancholia, uh, Antichrist and Melancholia were made like 2 or 3 years apart.
Hmm.
Both films marked me for life. Antichrist because of the visuals and the
Right.
story. The visuals and the story were amazing. It's
Hmm.
very hard to watch Antichrist because it's for the religious people. It's really up there.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, but you know this painting with the humongous tree without leaves at the bottom. There's like hand arms coming out of multiple
Oh,
arms to represent the devil and whatnot.
yeah, 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 yeah,
He
yeah.
nailed that painting in a film
In in a film
uh,
form.
in film
Wow.
form. He nailed it. He had Sophie, whatever her name is, the French actress.
Uh-huh.
Uh, she was naked and she was doing the bad deed.
Right.
Uh, I'm not gonna talk too much in detail about it, but she was at the roots of the tree and the painting. And what I love about Lars von Trier, he cares about pixel per pixel.
Holy crap.
Like he cares about the colors. Like there's a scene where one of the actresses was at the side of the river.
Hmm.
You notice that some leaves are discolored and other leaves are bright green. When he was asked about it, because a lot of people found it a little bit irritating,
Hmm.
people, and I'm talking about people who don't care about the visuals, they just watch a
Right.
movie to watch a movie. But he was like, because those didn't matter. What we needed to see is what was happening in that frame, in that area of the frame. So
Hmm.
this comes forefront. Anything besides that, we don't need to see because it's pointless. So he
Right.
left it discolored, but he left the colors for everything that mattered.
That's funny
So
because what you just described, I would have thought would have been a juxtaposition between good and bad. Good being
it could have
vibrant and
been that,
alive.
but the way he described
Yeah.
it, he said, because I think he was simplifying it, but I think what
Hmm.
he really meant what the juxtaposition between the good and the bad, because that's
Yeah.
all the film is about, the good and the evil.
Hmm.
And in Melancholia, the end scene, I don't want to spoil it too much, but the end scene was amazing. I'm not going to describe it in detail,
Right.
but the end scene was, to me,
Hmm.
one of the best end scenes in cinema history. That's how
Dang, that's
awesome it
awesome.
was.
I gotta check this
Melancholia,
video out.
yeah, this film is one of the best Von Trier ever made. There is one I cannot find for him in HD. I don't think he ever made it in HD. It's hand. Lars von Trier follows the Dogma style,
Hmm.
where he
Love
want
Dogma.
yeah, he the way he shoots his films, if he wants the light to be in a certain way on the chair, for example, or on the desk, he waits
Hmm.
for the sun to hit in a certain way
That
to
spot.
fulfill that
Right.
spot exactly. He doesn't use artificial anything.
Right.
Like in one of his films with
He's a
Bjork,
true artist.
yeah, in one of his films with Bjork as a heroine, Dancer in the
Hmm.
Dark, he did exactly that. Real life, what he used all natural light, all natural everything. He used over 100
Right.
cams uh, for real life. But when she
Hmm.
starts dreaming and joining the becoming in the dreamland, which is non-realistic, used every artificial thing he had at his disposal because
Hmm.
she was in an artificial world. So he
Hmm.
needed the juxtaposition between reality and dream. So
That's cool.
Lars von Trier is my director. I swear by him. I watch. I have every single film he ever made, with one exception. I don't
Hmm.
recommend anyone would watch that film because it was disturbing. It was disturbing. It's called Epidemic.
Right.
Epidemic is a story about a lot of directors and storyboard artists and screen screenwriters and
Hmm.
everything to come up with a film. It's
Hmm.
about these, but to come up with those with ideas for their film, it was people eating other people, murdering other people. It was very
Are you talking about
black.
cannibalism or zombie? Because it
No,
seems
no,
like
no,
every
no
movie
zombie
today now
cannibalism.
has, yeah, it seems like every movie today now is all about zombies. Everything's about zombies anymore.
Exactly.
What happened
So,
back in my day? It was what was his name? The old guy that did the vampire. He was always the vampire. Oh, I can't think of his name. Anyhow,
oh,
him and the
I know who you're talking about.
yeah, he was always the vampire, and then became werewolf, vampires and werewolves, and then now it's all zombies. I don't think they don't make any more werewolf or vampire movies outside of what was it, Twilight? I think was the
Yeah,
last.
they are working on Teen Wolf the movie now. Uh, remember Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox?
Yeah, 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 yeah. That
They're
was actually a
remaking.
comedy to me.
Yeah, but now it's more gore. That's all
Yeah,
they care about. But uh, Epidemic was people eating people, cannibalism, and all that just to come up with a story for a film. So the visuals were so good and
hmm.
so disturbing. I couldn't finish the film. I couldn't
Well,
finish it.
that's the thing about films and movies today. I think they've gotten away from the actual plot lines of it as
No,
much
it's
as it's
only
more
for
about what
financial
kind of
gain.
yeah what kind of effects we can do, which a lot of them are done, green screen and
Yeah,
CGI and stuff like that, which I think Pixar Studio, I think they actually use Linux.
yeah, they do in the back end,
Yeah,
but
yeah, on the back
uh,
end, yeah.
uh, but uh, so we don't talk about the subject too long because we need to talk about Linux at some point.
Right.
Uh, but like there's a series of movies that I really follow: Michael Bay and Transformers. Uh,
Yes, love those movies.
there's one coming this summer.
I
I can't
saw
wait to
that.
watch it. Yeah, I saw the trailer yesterday, so
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch that. But those are for entertainment value. I have a home theater system with
Nice.
over 100 terabytes of movies.
Holy
Either I
crap.
ripped legally or the other thing. Uh,
Right.
but now that we have moved into the 4K era and soon 8K,
Hmm.
movies don't occupy. 'Cause I don't get compressed. When they say compressed, I don't touch them. I only download remixes. Remixes are ripped straight out of the Blu-ray without compression.
Right.
So Lawrence
I,
for
I I heard you talking about that on somewhere. I can't remember
on my
which.
streams mostly.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so Lawrence of Arabia, for
Beautiful
example,
movie. Beautiful movie.
beautiful film, one of the best ever made with Ben
Hmm.
Hur, of course. Ben
Hmm.
Hur is 109 gigabytes
Hmm.
in 4K, and Lawrence of Arabia is 178 gigabytes. So yeah,
Wow.
100 terabytes now doesn't sound like a lot of storage now, does it?
Yeah. No. But it's interesting though. It's interesting you bring that up about the 4K, and this can apply to Linux as well. Is for some reason, I don't know if it's my age, my eyes, plus I have diabetes. So my vision changes from moment to moment throughout the day, and so I don't see those kind of clarities like you guys do.
Yeah, yeah. Same
Once you
with
get
my
above
dad.
when you get
Yeah,
above
same with my dad.
1080p, it all looks the same anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to that when my vision is getting there.
Hmm.
It comes with age. This is something we cannot fight. Uh, like my dad, for example, I give him a 720p movie.
Hmm.
He's like, it looks the same like a 480p movie.
Hmm.
To him, everything looks the same because his vision is. And we should understand that we shouldn't make fun of people who cannot discern the difference.
Hmm.
uh, the younger generation keep telling us, why can't you tell the difference? I can tell the difference. I can see
Mm-hmm.
pixels from like 5 feet away. You can't tell the
Mm-hmm.
pixels.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of power, the
I
power is
saw that.
fluctuating. Yeah, the
Yeah.
power is fluctuating. The generator is running out of
Mm-hmm.
fuel, I guess. But uh, eh, we shouldn't make fun. We shouldn't make fun of these people. Uh,
No.
After a certain point, even my dad being a producer director and this being his field,
Mm-hmm.
his eyes when they stop working, it's not his fault. It's not. We cannot tell him, oh, it's your field, you should tell the difference. No, his eyes are his
Right.
eyes. So
Yeah.
like we have a setup in church where we broadcast Sunday mass
Mm-hmm.
uh, on Facebook, and we delete it afterwards. We don't keep it up. We just for the it's for the elderly that cannot leave their homes.
Correct. Yeah.
So we do it on Discord. That's how I learned how to use Discord, because of church. Uh, so we broadcast that, and he watches it on his phone.
Mm-hmm.
And we broadcast in 720p, but at a very low bitrate because of the connection in Lebanon.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
have to use very low bitrate, and Facebook doesn't allow more than 3 megabits, I think. Uh, so we don't go as high as that. He does it, I think, at 2 megabits.
Oh
So
wow.
because of connection. So
Right.
the quality for me, the quality is shit. It duck crap.
Mm-hmm.
But for him, he can't see very well. So and,
It's
and the
perfect.
people and the elderly people who are watching it are elderly people. So
Right.
it's not about the quality, because it's mass and it's
Mm-hmm.
church. It's about attending and something that they cannot physically attend.
Feeling connected. Part of.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
only thing the elderly people miss out on is communion when you go take the holy bread.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but that's not their fault. So that's why our priest here, it's a small town,
Yeah.
6,000 people. 6,000 people, that's barely anything. So the priest himself does his best to visit the elderly people and to give them communion on
Mm-hmm.
foot or by car.
Oh
So
wow. That's awesome.
so we do that but that helped me do what I'm doing today, like going on YouTube and making those videos. And in church we use Windows because they don't want something they don't know anything about, because I'm not going to be there. We don't do it for them. My dad does it for them. And if my dad, you change the folder location from the desktop to my documents, he gets lost.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to find it. So
Yeah.
we have to keep it simple. That's what this is the philosophy that I applied immediately to XeroLinux,
You know,
which
it's really funny, but I just recently saw, the YouTube suggests, right? I
yeah.
watch a lot of those that what YouTube recommends, right? And there was a channel that was a channel before. He took down his old channel and is now strictly making Linux videos geared for senior citizens
That's a good
and
that's a
and
good target
helping set up
audience.
and helping set up Linux distros, to better fit their needs.
This is a good thing to do, especially that uh, there's this stigma around Linux where my grandma can use it. Yes, if you make it so, not because
I've
uh,
never known a grandma to use it. I tell you what, I put it
no,
on.
no, but this is the expression they use
Oh
to
yeah,
say that it's simple, but it's only as simple as the developers or the maintainers make it to be. It's
correct.
not inherently simple to use. No, because to begin with, Linux was a geek kind of thing. It was very niche in the early days.
I was there for the early days. I remember when Ubuntu started. Okay, I remember their first distribution. Back in the day, it was you know Red Hat with Fedora, right? And it was not easy to use then. You
No.
literally were living in command line, okay? You had to start everything from command line. It didn't matter what you wanted. There were no GUIs in Linux back then, man.
Well, I was there as well before Linux was there, because our first computer ever in the house was a Silicon
Tandy or
Graphics.
Commodore.
No, It was a Silicon graphics system running Unix.
Oh, really? I had a ColecoVision or Atom by ColecoVision, and it was a magnetic tape, cassette tape that you put in, and it was DOS ran. That was it.
Yeah, yeah. I remember those. I never had those. Wait, which one is the ColecoVision? I
It
remember
was
the
it
brown thing that came with a
with a
twisty
cassette
cable.
tape, a magnetic cassette tape.
Yeah, I never had because those back in the day, the things that sold
Hmm.
consoles was the pre-included games on internal memory.
Right.
Uh,
No, this one didn't even have that.
uh,
You actually had to code it.
oh well,
I
the
actually
first
coded my own game. Go ahead.
the first console I ever had for me, it was a
Hmm.
gift on my birthday. It was the Atari 2600.
Yep.
It had 360 games. Games.
Hmm.
They were all duplicates of each other, different color scheme, different
Yeah.
whatever.
8-bit.
But I never got a cartridge for it. I only lived 10 years on
What?
that. Yeah, on that built-in games that came with it, because and also those joysticks that came with it, they were
Or garbage.
yeah, you do it broke.
Yeah. So
It broke.
you mean to tell me you never suffered the inhumaneness of having to blow
Oh
out the
yeah,
cartridge
I did.
and slap it in and slap it out real quick to get it to
I
work?
did, but with the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis for
Oh,
you guys,
got you. Yeah.
because it was always lines, lines, lines,
Yep.
and then it would
Yep.
freeze. Then you
Yeah.
then put it back in, then it would run. Same
Yeah.
for the Super Nintendo. I never owned a Super Nintendo. I was more my brother was into consoles, and we mostly owned Sega Mega Drives, Sega systems until the
Right.
Dreamcast, and then he
Yeah.
switched from the Dreamcast immediately to PlayStation. And I was
Hmm.
an asshole of an
Hmm.
older brother,
Hmm.
where if I couldn't play, nobody could. I broke the PlayStation in pieces. Uh, so because I didn't like to lose, and I didn't like someone else to play the game, and the game I used to play on PlayStation, only game I didn't play anything else.
Hmm.
Anything. I still find it my favorite game to this day.
Hmm.
It's Diablo.
Diablo.
I played that game until the Joy Cons melted in my hands.
Really?
Uh, yeah, because it was a difficult game and I couldn't cheat back in the day on PlayStation. So I had to play it without cheats, and I had to repeat and repeat. But the game's story was so good. Blizzard loved their Diablo series. I still play it to this day, and I can't wait for Diablo 4 coming in June. So I played that, and my brother wanted to play something called Final Fantasy that everybody knows.
Hmm.
So he kept wanting to take the PlayStation away from me. I gave no, I want to play. I want to, sibling rivalry. Uh, I ended up taking the PlayStation, smashing it on the floor into a million pieces. So people would scream today, but we ended up buying another one. But yeah, I went from then on. I didn't own any consoles. The only other console I know back in the day in the 80s was a brown machine. I don't know it was called, with remotes connected to it via swirly cables with number pads on it, but never could get it to run, so I never used it. But that's the only other old school console I know. I'm more of a computer guy, because after the Silicon graphics that we had a Mac in 1992.
Hmm.
That was a classic 2VI. Its lifespan was the shortest ever. Apple discontinued that 6 months after release.
Wow.
6 months, 6 months only, because it had a faulty SCSI something whatever. It had a 72 megabyte hard drive and a 10 megahertz or 25 megahertz processor back in the day. But because of the small hard drive, we couldn't install too many games. So the
Yeah,
operating
well,
system.
so I was actually I had I Dreamcast. I had a Sega Dreamcast, and I was a Crazy Taxi guy. I love that game, Crazy Taxi.
I
And
was
then
more of
from
a
there,
Simpsons, guy,
really,
the same
and then I
style
went
as Taxi.
to uh and then I went to the Xbox after that, and I played Xbox for a long time, and then that was it. I was a console gamer. I never really gamed on uh I never really gamed on the PC until I started doing it with Linux in Steam. And
Oh
even
yeah,
then,
and speaking of Steam on Linux, this morning there was an update for Steam via the Arch package, not within Steam. There's updates within Steam when you launch it, and there's updates from the Arch repositories. So there was an
yeah.
update from the Arch repositories this morning. I don't know what it is, but anyway.
No, I don't know. All I know is I really, that's the only time I've ever really, gamed. I'm not a, like I said, I was a console gamer for a long time. In fact, that's what Sean, he has started playing more on Linux now as well because of the Steam. But he does, and that's the gamer tube. He's been doing a lot of the PS4 stuff, and he has been uh enjoying the freedom that he's starting to get on Linux now
Oh
on
yeah.
gaming.
Oh yeah. Trust me. Since I was okay, not a lot of people know this about me, but I'm not a gamer either. I'm more of a story kind of guy. If the game has a nice story and it has
Hmm.
cheats, I will
Hmm.
I will play it because I want to enjoy the story. But I didn't. I oh, whenever people used to mention to me gaming on Linux, I was like, nah. Gaming on Windows, nothing but Windows. Even though I was a Linux user, but to me, gaming was made first and foremost for Windows. It's the only place you would enjoy it the best. Once I got the Steam Deck, all that changed. The Steam Deck changed my mind completely because I was able to play most of my favorite games, Diablo included, uh, via via bottles. Uh, since seeing that Blizzard updated Diablo to support the Steam Deck, I was blown away
Hmm.
because they show you the keys that you have to click, Steam Deck buttons you have to click to get the potion, the mana, the whatever. I was like,
Hmm.
whoa, I'm gonna love this. And gaming on Steam has picked up so much because of the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck is this nudge in the road for Linux that
For Linux, yeah, for Linux.
disrupted the PC gaming,
Oh,
Windows gaming.
absolutely. And
Windows,
it's really funny because Gardner Bryant, you know who Gardner Bryant is,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the guys I used to watch a lot too. He's used to do a lot with Linux, but now he's pretty much devoted to
Steam Deck.
Steam Deck.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what I used to watch with him was he, he said that this is going to change the way people game, and he was
And
so right.
he was
He was
so
so
right.
right. He was
I'm
so
like,
right.
listen, the Steam Deck is not only a good AAA title gaming machine at 30 FPS, 30, 40 FPS with a few that do run older titles that do run up to 60. Uh, but where this thing shines for me personally is retro gaming. This thing with the creation of EmuDeck and the update of Batocera to support the Steam Deck,
Hmm.
dude. Okay, GameCube is hit or miss with titles. For me, like Star Wars, Rogue Squadron 2 and 3, unplayable on the Steam Deck via game Dolphin emulator.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, those were the only two games I really cared about on the GameCube. But they don't
Hmm.
work. Whatever. But it plays up to PS3.
Oh,
This
nice.
the Steam Deck supports emulation up to the PS3, including the Switch. Please, Nintendo, don't strike me. Uh, uh, but it plays anything under the sun up to the PS3. I'm like, this little thing, this little machine, okay, pricey as it is, can run almost every single console. Not even the Pi 4 can do that
Yeah,
because
Valve knew what they were doing. I don't know what kind of R&D they have put. Oh wow, they put into the Steam Deck, but I'm gonna tell you right now, they did their research really, really well.
Not
They
only
knew what
that,
they were. It's funny because one of the things being my age, you've seen lots of tech come and go.
yeah,
I'm sure you've seen it in your lifetime
yeah,
too.
yeah,
You see lots of tech come and go. You see all kinds of different ideas come and go. Steam focused on a target demographic. They focused on a target, hardware componentry that they were going to do. They married the two together and they did not deviate not 1 inch on it. And it's one of the few marketing campaigns that was ever done that literally stuck to one thing and didn't swerve one way or another and called it the way it was.
exactly,
Period.
exactly.
It was it was a very focused thing.
Whereas with the Pi 4,
Hmm.
they had so many things that it doesn't do one thing and does it good. It does
Right.
multiple things at a mediocre level
Right.
because they had so many targets, so many like security cameras,
Yeah. So
banking
many different
systems,
applications. Exactly. Yeah.
million different applications, which isn't that bad, but it just gives mediocre result. It doesn't give the result that the Steam Deck did. And with a clear vision that Valve had, and
Hmm.
by learning from past mistakes, because God
Hmm.
knows Steam had a
Made
lot of
their
them.
share of mistakes. Oh yeah.
The Steam machine, oh boy.
Yeah.
But and the weird thing is about the Steam machines, because I owned one.
Hmm.
Uh, well, semi-owned one because I had to turn an old desktop into one because that's exactly what Steam Machine was. Old desktops that had Steam OS on them. They were not
Right.
specific hardware like the
Forward.
Steam
Yeah.
Deck is,
Like the Steam Deck. Yeah.
because the Steam Deck uses a custom SoC,
Hmm.
AMD system on a chip,
Hmm.
a CPU basically. It's a custom
Hmm.
SKU. It's not
Hmm.
something that exists that you could buy off the shelf. It's targeted for the Steam Deck. But
Hmm.
Steam machines were just desktops laying around that they had laying around. They just created an Ubuntu, a Debian-based Steam OS,
Hmm.
which only ran big picture mode on startup. When you went to desktop, it was just Debian. They didn't.
It
They
was
just
just
changed the
Debian. Yeah.
wall.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They only changed the wallpaper. That's it. That's all they
Right.
did for desktop mode. Whereas with this one, I am a distro maintainer. And by being a distro maintainer, you learn how to dig deep into the system and
Yeah.
learn the nitty gritty of
I
the thing.
wish, I gotta admit, I gotta tell you, I'm kind of jealous of you in that aspect because uh, I do play around in a lot of the configuration files and stuff like that, But to be a distro maintainer in coding and all that stuff, man, I wish I had that
Well,
within
no
me,
need for coding because I don't code. I rely on others to
Well,
code.
really, I
Like
thought you coded.
no. The XeroLinux welcome app, the Bash scripts were written by me, but the UI and everything else was done
Hmm.
by a contributor.
Oh, got you. Okay.
It's all
Okay.
about contributed code, basically, as I
Right.
call it.
Got you. Well, that's what
Uh,
Linux is based on. I
yeah,
mean, Linus will tell you he doesn't just do the kernel. He has thousands of people that are involved in the
yeah,
kernel.
exactly.
In fact, that's
So
why he started GitHub. Was it GitHub
yeah,
or GitLab?
GitHub.
GitHub. Yeah,
Uh,
that's exactly why he started GitHub.
so a lot of people contribute code to XeroLinux, but when I went deep into the Steam Deck, I discovered that Wayland is not coming anytime soon on the Steam Deck because they use Pulse Audio. They don't
Hmm.
use Pipewire, and in order to use Wayland, you need Pipewire. That's
Hmm.
for people who want to use OBS on the Steam Deck because you can.
Hmm.
It's just a laptop, basically, in the end.
Hmm.
Uh, so I started digging even deeper. I discovered that they forked the Arch repositories, adding -rel behind them just to differentiate.
Right.
So they don't use the actual Arch repositories. They use a fork of the Arch repositories to have only the packages that are suitable for the deck.
For the Steam Deck, right?
Yeah. So
Which is, so being a Linux YouTuber and gearing my, because you see, I gear my channel for the new to Linux user
yeah,
experiences. You know what I'm saying? And that is, I think, one of the things that I think a lot of like your distro, it's made to be easily set up, and keep
exactly.
it simple. I think that is a focus that a lot of distros should be doing is doing what kind of what Valve did there.
Yeah,
Specifically curating your apps and your programs to create less breakage.
exactly. And to go deeper, the packages on their fork of the Arch repositories are old AF. Like
Hmm.
the one, if you want to install Wine, I had to install Wine. I have a meta package. I was able to add my own repositories on the Steam Deck because they're just
Okay.
packages from
Oh,
the AUR.
right.
Uh, so I have a package called Wine Meta because they have only Proton Wine installed on the Steam Deck by default, which is not
Yeah, they
exactly
use it. I
Wine.
think they included a lot of Glorious Egg Rolls
No, they didn't
work.
actually.
They didn't?
No, not his packages. Maybe his tweaks to their packages, but
Yeah.
not directly his packages because
Oh,
there's nothing
wow.
called
Okay.
GE on the Steam Deck. But uh, I installed Wine Meta, which installed Wine and Wine Mono and Wine whatever, all
Hmm.
the dependencies and everything because I have a huge library of GOG games, huge, and
Oh,
I'm
wow.
talking over 700 games. Uh,
Holy crap. That's a lot.
s-
That's a lot of games.
with Wine installed, you know how you download a game, then double click the setup exe, you next on Windows.
Yes, yes, yes,
Same
yes, yes,
thing
yes.
on Linux when you have Wine for
Yeah,
GOG games.
exactly. In fact, I think one of the and I think I did a video on it, but I'm going to redo another video on it as well. Is bottles.
Yeah,
Have
we're
you?
gonna talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Uh, but I'm not using anything but Wine right here. Forget bottles.
Hmm.
I just double click the setup exe, next. It installs in .wine in your home directory and then virtual C
Yeah.
drive, whatever.
Yeah.
It puts the game there. It puts a shortcut on your desktop just like it does on Windows.
Windows,
It's a
exactly. Yeah.
it's a .desktop file
Hmm.
or .link file because on Windows it creates a link file, LNK. But
Hmm.
I double click the shortcut on the desktop and the game just works on Linux. So it's understandable for GOG to stop supporting Linux because with the appropriate tools, you can make it run on Linux without any issues.
Hmm.
And since most of the GOG games I have are older titles and 2D platformers, like the latest one being Return to Monkey Island,
Hmm.
which is my favorite series of all time. But I just installed Return to Monkey Island, double clicked it, and ran the game.
Hmm.
But in order to have all my games in one place, I added them to bottles, which brings us to bottles. It's
Hmm.
I don't use it to run the game as much as I use it to put all my games in one place to organize them. So I have a huge, and I use those the same methodology on the Steam Deck. I just put the GOG games on an external drive, connected it to the Steam Deck, installed them using Wine.
Hmm.
I have all my shortcuts on my desktop, but I put them in my documents so I don't clutter the desktop because I'm not a
Hmm.
Windows user. Uh, but and I added them to Steam. I just clicked add non-Steam game to library, and those are my games. I don't have a single game from Steam on the Steam Deck. It's mostly
Right.
GOG games like Cuphead, Return to Monkey Island, what's it called, Streets of Rage 4, and stuff like that. The
Hmm.
only non-GOG game that I have on there that I have from Steam, I have only one. It's called Tron Runner. If you look for it on Instant Gaming or whatever, you can find it for $2 because it's a 7-year-old game. Uh, using the Tron Legacy style.
Hmm.
Uh, but and it's emulation. Like I have like 700 ROMs on there, give or take.
Hmm.
So whenever I want to play an old game, I go into EmuDeck and enjoy an old game from there. Otherwise, I play GOG games from the Steam UI. That's it. That's the thing. And I need to show off something. Give me a sec. Wow.
It's amazing how well they've done with the hardware on that. Every review that I've seen done on it is amazing. I think Linus Tech Tips (LTT). He did a review on the buttons and stuff,
Yeah.
and he said that they could have been a little bit better on the
For the
controllers.
analog
Yeah, on the
stuff.
analog. He said, but other than that, he said he was actually pretty well impressed with
And
how well they
here
put it
you go.
together.
XeroLinux style on
I
the
see
Steam
that.
Deck desktop.
Yeah, you did XeroLinux on it. That's cool.
Yeah, it's not XeroLinux. It's just the style, the desktop
Yeah.
customizations. I did it
Well,
because
it's
I'm used
Linux. You
to.
could do that. See, that's what I
Yeah,
love about Linux, man. You can customize it for whatever you want.
I'm using Latte Dock on the Steam Deck,
Yeah.
and people keep complaining that Latte Dock is discontinued. It's not, because you're not using the, like yesterday. Someone created an issue on my GitHub telling me, or on my forums, and he was like,
Hmm.
uh, the Latte Dock is discontinued. Are you gonna replace it with anything? I was like, where did you see it was discontinued? The
Well, the
developer
developer
left the
left it. Yeah.
project, but now it's an official KDE app. So
Oh,
once
so it's being maintained by KDE's team?
not right now. Right now it's community maintained.
Uh-huh.
But I talked to the KDE people. They were like, once Plasma 6 lands,
Mm-hmm.
development will resume on Latte Dock.
Latte Dock? Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Because I did do a video. I did, I'm one of those guys that you kind of put me on blast on that. When the developer announced that he was leaving Latte Dock, I did put out a video to some of my people that were downloading and using it. I wonder how long you're going to see it supported in distros because of that. But if KDE's
Now,
picking it up, then that's awesome.
here's another issue that irritates me is, and I asked the guy, where did you read that? He was like, Garuda recently put up a post. I'm like, oh, you're basing your judgment on something Garuda said? I'm like,
Hmm.
don't trust whatever Garuda said. And I checked. Guess what? Garuda are
What?
using the actual package, which the maintainer, the creator of Latte Dock said, move away from
From that package, yeah.
that package, move to the Git version. He
Right.
was very adamant on that. He was telling everyone. And what does Garuda do? They stick to the regular package. Of course, that regular
Wow.
package is not going to receive any updates in a million years, because the one that you should use is the Git version.
Right.
Don't use the regular package.
So
That's
you know
not
what?
receiving any love.
That's something I wanted to ask you. And when I get you on the channel, I'm definitely going to ask it to you again. Because when you came out, Garuda came out too at the same time, right? Or roughly around the same time.
No, I came after Garuda, and everybody
Yeah.
started telling me, "Oh, XeroLinux is a fork of Garuda," because
Exactly. So
it looked
how
the
do you
same.
actually feel about how do you feel about that distro? What are your opinions on
I
it?
have nothing against Garuda, the Garuda distro, as much as I have an issue with the mentality behind it. I have a gripe with the way they do things in Garuda, but the developers behind Garuda are amazing. They are a group of brainiacs, as I call them, because
Right.
their level of understanding and knowledge in development is amazing. They created ButterFS Assistant.
Right.
So that was an idea I had, but they did it way, way better than I would ever be able to do it. Because
Hmm.
the thing with Snapper is, back in the day when it was still early, the only way to restore your snapshots was booting using a live ISO of Arch.
ISO, right, yeah.
Because whenever you browsed a snapshot, it was read only.
Right.
To be able to restore it, you had to boot a live ISO and then restore that way.
Right.
We needed a GUI tool that did all that for you.
Correct.
So I had a contributing developer who created a very simple tool to do that.
Hmm.
It was working, but at a very basic level. Because
Right.
I didn't have an understanding of ButterFS, and I still don't. And I use XFS. I don't use ButterFS or ext4. But he created the tool, and then 6 months later, there was ButterFS Assistant. When I saw ButterFS Assistant, I was like, my tool is redundant at this point.
Yeah.
It's such a tiny, because it was 2 buttons and a
Right.
list of snapshots. Their tool is so forward-looking and so flexible, and you can do things. You can tweak your settings. You can tweak your snapshots and whatever. I was
Mhm.
like, excellent. They're smart. They can do things. But the way they go about whatever you report, like an error report, they
Mhm.
make you feel like you are an idiot.
But, I've been around a lot of savants like
They're
that
like that.
they're
Yeah,
genius, but they don't mean to do it that way. It's just the way they come off naturally.
yeah. So I their way of replying to users is wrong, and this misinformation with Latte Doc is another thing to add on the bad things that they do, because they're using the regular package. Use the Git instead of no, man. That's what we used to use. They have the chaotic AUR, which, by the way, good news. The chaotic AUR is no longer chaotic.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's no longer for chaotic. It's for anyone, any distro maintainer. They can use it for their own distro. They
Oh,
took
nice.
all the chaotic packages out of it.
Mhm.
Now it's just chaotic AUR for packages built from the AUR, basically. And it's all automated by the system. They have a system, a server that pulls the latest changes, compiles the packages, and hosts them, which to me is not enough to use, because the automated system can build a faulty package,
Right.
because and you have no control over that. They don't have no control. They don't test. They don't
Mhm.
validate. It's to me, as a distro maintainer, it's too much of a hassle to use, because I don't
Mhm.
want to ship packages that are broken to my users. I build packages that I test on my VMs before I agree to push. If an
Right.
update is broken, I wait for the next update. Like XeroLinux, Plasma 527 got released like a few weeks ago,
Right.
a couple of weeks ago. So on the 14th, it got released. I didn't release an ISO immediately. Why? Because I always wait for the second point release, which we got last night. Now we're already at the second point release of 5.27.
Mhm.
Now I can release an ISO, because I know that they fixed all the
A lot of the bugs and issues right
yeah
away. Yeah.
all initial
And that's
releases.
actually
Dot zero releases are always buggy.
right, and that's exactly why I haven't, if you notice, I didn't do a review of it yet. I don't think
Yeah,
too many people have done reviews of it yet because of the same reason. We're waiting for bugs and fixes,
yeah.
more of a view of what the finalized,
Like for example, they have the Flatpak settings, the flat seal style
Mhm.
Flatpak settings integrated in their settings app under applications.
Yeah,
Uh, so the permission stuff.
which
It was bug,
I think that's an awesome move.
and only KDE did it. They are the
Yeah.
very first to do it. And GNOME, nothing yet. Uh, but with the recent news of Ubuntu axing Flatpaks completely
Yeah,
from the
I read that and I was like, what's really funny is I just did in my live. I talked about that I did last night with Sean at the GamerTube. I was talking to him about how I think it's interesting that Linux Mint, not Linux, not LMDE, the Debian edition, but the Linux Mint, they just doubled down on their support for flat packs, whereas Ubuntu was actually doubling down on axing flat packs. I think that's a clear and concise
yeah, because
showing
they need to
on
they keep
Linux Mint to saying that they're moving towards a Debian only derivative.
they want to differentiate between Ubuntu flavors and Ubuntu spin.
Yeah,
There's two separate things. You got the
yeah,
spins, which are Linux Mint and
the
whatever's based on
Unity.
Ubuntu, but
Yeah,
anything with Untu at the end, those are the
yeah,
flavors.
yeah.
Uh,
Lubuntu, Kubuntu, all those guys. Yeah,
yeah, Lubuntu, Zubuntu, all
yeah,
the
all those
Untu
guys. Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
They need, by order of canonical, all whatever flavor Ubuntu flavors are to cease and desist on Flatpaks. But Brody made a video last night
hmm
where he was like, "Guys, why are you so mad? You can still install Flatpaks. It's just 2 second step. They're just not shipping it by default,
right.
but users can still add it. So why are people so up in arms
Well,
about?"
that's because I think, to be honest with you, I understand that, and I actually got posed that question before, and I think people forget that a lot of the guys that we're dealing with now are people that are shipping or migrating over to Linux from Windows
Yeah,
because of the Windows 11 thing. And so we're getting a lot of those. We're getting a lot of those where they're so used in their mindset that you can't add or remove anything. They don't understand the actual true freedom of what Linux is, where
Exactly.
you can do that. It's like the Chat GPT thing being integrated into Linux. There's a lot
Yeah.
of people that are extremely upset over that. But the fact is you realize that you have 100% power and domain over your distribution. You could remove all of that. And it's not being embedded into the actual Linux kernel or code. It's an application that's added on. So you can actually get rid of it
Yeah.
completely.
And
You
or
know, and I
add the
think
thing
that's
that
the
has been
problem.
removed.
Yeah,
Or
I
add the
think
thing
that's the problem why people are getting so excited and getting, kind of heated up about it is
like
because
like
they're forgetting that. They're so used to dealing with, Mac OS and Windows that they're landlocked to what's on their computer.
and being an owner of Mac and Windows and Linux, uh, Mac has its target audience. Me, it's for the dumb people, as I call it, but I shouldn't use that expression. It's for the
Hmm.
users who are not very tech savvy and they expect things to just work. This is
Right,
Apple, 100% Apple. You want something
right.
to just work. You don't want to bother with building packages, waiting or updating, and then this update broke and this update broke. No, if you want something to just work forever, just
Hmm.
use Mac. Don't use Windows. Don't use Linux. I'm not saying that any of them are bad. It's just each operating system has its target audience. We have to be mature and mature adults about it and call it as it is. Make fun of
I
Mac
think
users.
I think one thing though, I agree with what you're saying, but I think one thing that predicates the necessity to which one you're going to use also is your economic status.
Yes, of course, you
I
cannot buy a
mean,
Mac when you cannot afford it. Of course,
exactly.
but if you can afford it and you want something to just work and you're a businessman or businesswoman or anything
Mac is
with
the
a
way to go.
company and
Yeah,
things like that, don't use Linux because Linux at some point it's
it's going
not
to break.
it's gonna break. It's the nature of Linux. That's why it's fun for us geeks because we learn by fixing. But
Although I will agree, I will argue that
there are
Linux
some
gotten
distros
a
that are very
lot
stable.
better,
Yeah.
especially especially these immutable ones now. I think that is a pretty smart thing because what they're doing, if you're new to Linux and you're not like a super geek
No,
or something
come
like
on.
that, it's
Immutable, they expect the user to know how to restore a snapshot and restore. This is not
yeah, but
as a
they're a
simple.
little
It's
hard,
not as
but
simple
they're a
as a
little harder
click.
to break, I think.
A little bit harder to break, but when it is
That's where I'm
broken,
saying, that's a little bit better because of that. Yes, it's a little harder to restore it,
yeah,
but it's also harder to get to the point where you have to use the restore.
yeah, especially when
That's the
you
trade-off.
and especially like immutable distros, they all push flatpaks for the forefront because they just install up, get up and running. Okay, there's still the permission thing, which is an
Yeah,
extra step you have to do. But now with KDE implementing them in the settings, it's making them even easier to get to.
easier. Exactly.
But like for me, uh, I own all three. Windows for the people who have business people who have applications that only run on Windows. There's this argument where you can run them in Wine or in a virtual machine on Linux, but why go
Hmm.
through all these hoops when it just runs on Windows? And I'm one of those guys that I can tell you in certainty Windows can be stable because I've had Windows on this the desktop that I'm talking to you from
Hmm.
has had Windows on it from Windows 7 when Windows 7 was first released in 2000 whatever.
Hmm.
And it's been upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 8 to Windows 8.1 to Windows 10 to Windows 11. Haven't needed to restore it. Well, I cannot say ever. I restored it like a few months ago because I wanted to, not because it broke.
Right.
Because I wanted to, not because it broke.
The last version of Windows that I used was Windows 7, and that version. And I didn't actually. I did try Windows 10 for a minute, but I just tried it, to have it. But
Yeah,
the last I used was actually Windows 7, and that one actually I found to be rock solid.
it was rock solid for
It
as
was
long as
rock
possible.
solid.
My best friend next door, he's still running Windows 7 prior to Service Pack 1
Holy
on his.
crap!
He will not budge even to Service Pack 1 because he's too afraid that they will. Because
It's
if
going
he
to break or
updates to
something.
Service, no, it's because uh, to push Windows 10 or 11, Microsoft must have modified Service Pack 1 for Windows 7 to push the notification, you're ready to upgrade to Windows 11. You're
Yeah.
ready to Windows.
Yeah.
They must have modified it because a lot of users I know have this pop up constantly. Elderly users, not regular users, but elderly users. They tell me, what is this message? Windows, as in Arabic, it's called Hadash. So Windows 11. What is this Windows Hadash? Because the message comes in Arabic because of the locale thing.
Right.
What is this thing? What is this thing? And all they have is Windows 7 Service Pack 1. So they must have modified the Service Pack installer to include that pop-up message to get people to move away from Windows 7.
They've had to have, yeah.
Yeah. So my friend will not update to Service Pack 1, and his computer is kind of old. It's from 2014. So it's more compatible with his hardware, whereas Windows 10, he hates it because of telemetry. Windows 11, he hates it because he doesn't have TPM on his motherboard. So
right, yeah, but telemetry seemingly starting to find its way into everything. That's what happens.
Even
That's
in
what happens
KDE,
when
they
you
have a
start melding
telemetry.
corporations with everything.
Even KDE has a telemetry thing, but it's only for them to be able to fix issues. So you are able to, because if you have it disabled on KDE, whenever something crashes, you will not be able to send the actual bug report directly to them. You have to enable it so it can collect information about your system, about the crash, and send it to them. But so that's the correct telemetry to have enabled. But the telemetry,
in many of my videos, I talk about that. Telemetry. Yes, it's the stuff that people are afraid of, but there is such a thing as good telemetry. And the most important part about any telemetry is the fact that you need to be able to opt in or opt out of it.
Exactly. That's what Linux does. They opt in, opt out. But there's a lot of haters out there, man. They see telemetry, the word telemetry, they immediately judge it badly. Yeah. Their horns start showing, and I'm like, dude, relax. It's not the wrong type of telemetry.
But that's one of the things. That is one of the things that I love about this community, is that we all have our own desire of what we want in it, and we can all achieve that. That's the one thing that is the one thing about the Linux community that is so unique and so special.
That's the approach I try to take with XeroLinux. It's open for the community, and I will announce it again. I will keep announcing it, or not announcing it. I'll keep repeating it in every video I make. XeroLinux is now open for community spins. If you are you want to become a distro maintainer, you want to join the team, and you want to create your own spin because you don't like KDE or GNOME, you're free to do so. The code is online. It's on GitHub. Just grab it, study it, ask me questions. I will assist as much as I can. But I'm an old man now. I don't remember how I started and how I created the whole thing. Right. Especially that the build script that we use was an in-house made script by a contributing member. He created the code. If you ask me about that code, I will have to redirect you to him because I do not write a single line of code, nor do I understand it. But I will put you in touch with that person. There's a flag. Our tool is called ABS, Arch Linux Build Script, because it's not only targeted to XeroLinux. You can build your own distro
anything with it.
Yeah.
See, that's what I want to learn how to do. I want to learn how to do that.
With ABS, all you need with ABS is your own custom Arch ISO profile. You just take the Relang folder. I'll be making a video about that, but all you have to do is take the Relang folder.
Please do, and let me know because I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, because it's all about the Relang folder. Call it Arch ISO, rename it to Arch ISO, put it in there, call it whatever you want. Call it, let's say, Linux Tube.
Right.
And just run the ABS command in terminal after having installed ABS, of course. You run the ABS command -C for custom, and it will ask you what's the name of your profile. You tell it the Linux tube. It will scan the
Right.
folders, see that the Linux tube folder exists. It's a
Mm-hmm.
custom relaying. You add your packages in there, and you're off to the races.
Are you serious?
That's how good ABS is. Yes, how
Holy
easy to
crap!
use. Thanks to what's his name? Thanks to Kayadisa for the
Mm-hmm.
script. He spent days, sleepless days, sleepless nights, whatever,
Making the script.
making the script. But it now works for anyone. And there's another awesome thing about that script. God bless this kid. God bless him, because
Mm-hmm.
what you can do with the script is, you know how Arch releases an ISO every month?
Yeah.
Well, you don't need to wait a month to build the actual Arch ISO. With ABS, you just run ABS-V. It will build the Arch ISO from the latest packages whenever you want.
Are you? Wow.
Whenever you want. Let's say you want to build it today. You will get the latest packages as of today without having to wait until
They
the
drop
first of the
anything.
month.
It's whatever they
Yeah,
have in their current repo.
yeah. You can build it.
Wow.
It's just a flag, -V. You watch it build. You don't have to modify anything. You don't have to build your own profile. You don't have to do anything. You build the Arch
You got
ISO from the
definitely
Arch
make
repositories using that
brother,
tool.
definitely make that video for sure, man, so that I can watch it, because I've always wanted, back in the day. I don't know if you remember this, but back in the day there used to be a tool that you could download called Remaster Sys. And
No, I don't remember that.
what it was is you could set up your distribution. What it didn't matter whichever one it was. It was in Debian, Arch. I don't think Arch was around back then, but yeah, I think it was. Anyhow, or like Red Hat, whatever distribution you were in. You could customize it and set it up to whatever you want, from fonts to pictures to whatever, backgrounds and stuff like that. You can adjust colors, everything, right? You did all that stuff, and then you ran this remaster system. What it did is it took like a snapshot of your
Yeah, I
distribution
remember
that
it.
you
I remember
had,
it.
and you could literally
You do
customize it,
that.
and you
Yeah,
could
you
give it
do
to your
that.
friends into a bootable ISO.
Yeah, it still exists. A fork of that still exists in
A port of
Debian.
it does not, yeah,
Yeah, a
not,
port.
but only in Debian, exactly.
Yeah, and only in Debian. But my problem with that is, okay, let's say you have your list of applications and whatever you want to include in the snapshot. You
Hmm.
will end up with an ISO that is like 17 gigabytes. But it's like a backup snapshot if you want.
Yeah. But it made it into an actual bootable, installable
Yeah,
ISO,
yeah.
which was, I thought, was
There
amazing.
is
You know what I'm
something on
saying?
Arch. There is something on Arch, somewhat works,
Hmm.
but it's still in its infancy. I don't like to use. I forgot the name of it, but
Yeah, I forgot that I found it too, and it was really
clunky. It's really clunky.
clunky. Yeah, it was really
Yeah,
clunky and clumsy to use, and I was like, yeah,
yeah.
this isn't it.
It's like consave. There's a tool out there called consave for people who rice KDE and they
Hmm.
want to back up their rice.
Hmm.
The only problem I have with consave is if you have themes installed from AUR, like or you build
It
yourself
won't
and you
back
host
those
it.
up.
It won't back those up because it doesn't have access to anything outside the home directory.
Exactly.
So I install themes. I build themes. I have, I think, 5 or 6 themes built. But you know that themes, they're not one package. You have the SEDM separate. You have
Hmm.
the actual KDE theme separate, the GTK theme separate, the application style separate, the Kbantum separate. You end up with like 20 different packages for a single theme.
Right.
So I build those for each theme. I have the Sweet theme, the North theme, the Dracula theme, Leyen theme, Orcus, another 2, I forget the name of them. I have 7
Hmm.
themes, uh, totaling maybe 50 packages or so,
Right.
uh, that I host on my repository. I have to update them because they're Git packages. So AUR is not going to notify you that there's an update. I have to wait a couple of weeks to a month before
Hmm.
I update manually, expecting latest commits. But I
Right.
update those themes, I install them so they go in user share themes.
Right.
But Consafe does not have access to that.
For that,
So it
right,
cannot
because
back up the
it's a
theme files.
directory. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only annoying part of Consafe. but but if you install the themes regularly from Pling, from GnomeLook, or whatever
Wherever,
in your
yeah.
home directory,
No
then you're
problem
good.
there.
No
Yeah.
problem there. It's a very useful tool, but again, it's clunky. The way
Yeah.
it does things, sometimes you end up with widgets out of date and that no longer work and stuff like that. You have to do a
Yeah.
little bit of manual work afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing is perfect. Nothing is
Yeah.
100% perfect. But then that's again, this is the best part of Linux. You can always troubleshoot. There's
That's
always a
exactly why I love
solution.
Linux.
You cannot fix anything on Windows. You cannot fix
No,
anything on Mac because you
no,
have to wait for whoever created them
to fix it.
to fix them.
Yeah.
With Linux, you can apply the fixes and propose the fix to the developer who will implement it. This case in point, TopGrade. I don't know if you heard
Mm-hmm.
of TopGrade.
Yep. Yeah.
That's a tool that I use in XeroLinux, but as an option.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
optional. Everything in
Right.
XeroLinux is optional. I don't force anything on you because I put myself in in the user's shoes. Would I
Mm-hmm.
like people to force their vision on me? No, I don't. So
Mm-hmm.
by extension, I don't force my vision on them. So I
Right.
give them the options. It's up to them to decide. You want to use ZSH? Okay, button. You click a button in the tool, it will switch you
And
to
there it is.
ZSH.
Yeah.
You still love Bash, but you want to customize Bash? Click the button that switches to Oh My Bash.
Right.
I give the choices to do whatever you want, and I will try to support you as much as I can. But problems like some users are having with Pipewire because of their old hardware. Pipewire is not very friendly with old hardware. If
Mm-hmm.
you have old
Yep.
hardware, you have to use Pulse Audio.
Right.
Uh, but that's a thing where me having to weigh the pros and the cons come into play.
Mm-hmm.
I have to weigh the pros and the cons. When it had to,
And
I
that's
made
and that's with
when I made the
anything. I
switch
mean,
to
whenever
Pipewire.
when you're appealing to the masses, man, you can't please everybody.
Exactly. Like when had to make the decision between Pulse Audio and Pipewire, I was like, I want my distro to live long and prosper. So
You
shout
got to
out
go
to
with what's coming in
Spock.
the future. Yeah.
Shout out to Spock. God
Yeah.
rest your soul.
God rest his
Uh,
soul.
yeah. So I was like, yeah, I want it to live long and prosper, so I'll go Pipewire. And
Yeah.
I did explain to the users by switching Pipewire. I posted it on the forums when
Mm-hmm.
I first switched. I was like, I had to make this the decision to switch to Pipewire because of this or that. But the problem with Pipewire is to switch back to Pulse is very difficult.
Yeah.
You have to either start off with Pipewire or you cannot do the switch. Once you start with one, you cannot switch back to the other. There are ways to do it. I'm not saying there aren't, but they're all clunky. They will all
Mm-hmm.
cause issues in the end.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna end up with half and half, like half
Yeah.
Pulse, half Pipewire. So I was like, I was thinking of releasing two versions of XeroLinux, a Pulse Audio and a Pipewire version, because there are
Mm-hmm.
people with old potato laptops
Yeah.
that require Pulse Audio, and then I was like, that's gonna introduce confusion. Which one should I get?
Right.
Which one should I get? I'm like, if users want the Pulse Audio, I tell them, well, you have to RTFM because
Yeah.
there is no easy way to go back to Pulse Audio.
Yeah.
But there are
Right.
decisions. When you are a distro maintainers, you have decisions to make.
Tough
Sometimes I get
choices you got to
to
make. You know, I mean, you got to
yeah,
drive. You got to successfully drive. You know, I used to be a business owner, and you know, before I semi-retired. And the thing is you got to make the best decisions to carry you for the longevity of what it is
yeah.
that you're trying to do. And sometimes it's a tough decision to make, you know, and you feel like you're omitting or leaving people behind, but that's what you got to do. You know what
Like
I
I did with
mean?
Zero G. Like I did with Zero G, I set the
Yeah.
minimum RAM requirement to 8 GB because, in all reality, to enjoy GNOME the way it was supposed to be enjoyed,
Hmm.
you have to have a minimum of 8 GB. You cannot
Yeah.
expect it to. Okay, it boots, it installs in on less than 8 GB, but as soon as you start installing your applications, you're gonna start running into memory issues
Issues. Yep.
because from the get-go it uses 1.5 gigabytes of RAM. This
Hmm.
is without having anything installed, just the operating system. Between 1.2 and 1.5 gigabytes, okay, if I tell users minimum requirement 2 gigabytes, they're gonna install it on 2 gigabytes, then install Chromium or Firefox
Whatever, and
or
it's going to chew
Vivaldi.
it up right there.
It's
Yeah.
gonna chew it up, and like I told one of my donors who got his hands on the Zero G,
Hmm.
because Zero G is for people who support the project, the ISO.
Hmm.
But if you want to get it for free, the code is there, and
Yeah, build it.
the tutorial how to build it is there. The only caveat is you have to build it on a pure Arch distro. Any distro
Right.
that's Arch based, not
Right.
Artix, not Garuda, because Garuda they block things. Kingdom Come,
Hmm.
not KOS because they have their own fork of the Arch repositories, not Manjaro, stuff like that.
Hmm.
But with other than that, you can build it on any Arch distro. Uh, but the he donated. He got his hands on the ISO. Only his laptop is 8 gigabytes, but shared with his
Hmm.
iGPU. So it's not
Right.
real 8 gigabytes. So he got the
Right.
message in Calamares that you don't have enough
RAM.
RAM. Uh, so instead of complaining, you know what he did? He
What?
sent me a message. He said, "Okay, I got the message in Calamares, but I do understand. So I grabbed myself an extra stick of RAM."
There you go.
And
Problem
and
solved.
the RAM is so cheap nowadays. DDR3 and DDR4 are
Hmm.
so cheap nowadays. Uh, you can do that. So he grabbed an extra stick because I told him, in all honesty, I cannot lower the requirements and have you enjoy Zero G without having any
Hmm.
issue. He was like, I do understand, so I grabbed my an extra stick of RAM, and now he's going to enjoy XeroLinux on 12 gigabytes of RAM.
There you
Uh,
go.
so,
So listen, my brother, it is time for me to go.
all right. So, thank you for being on.
Hey, you're welcome.
Hopefully, I'll be on your show next whenever we can do it, since the time difference is 10 hours. So,
Hmm.
anyways, God bless you, my friend.
Oh, God bless you too, man. And I'm definitely gonna keep promoting you. I'm gonna have you on the show soon.
I'll
I'm gonna
send you
talk.
my email via Discord in a bit.
Yeah,
Uh,
send me your email so I could get you in touch with Mr.
Kabir.
Kabir.
Uh, and with that, guys, I'm gonna end it. Don't forget to comment, rate. I mean, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm stuck in the past. There's no rating anymore. To like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to find me, you can find me on Discord. You can find me on Mastodon, Postodon to be exact.
Hmm.
And Alex, tell the people where they can find you.
So for me, you guys can find me, of course, on YouTube at the Linux Tube over there, and then also I am on Facebook. I'm also on Discord. I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram, and I am the Linux Tube on all of those. So
And
I made it real
hopefully,
simple. Just type in the Linux Tube pretty much so anywhere, and you'll find me.
we'll see you on Mastodon or Postodon soon.
Actually, I do. So I do have a Mastodon one, or is it? Yeah, a Mastodon account, but I don't use it very often because I just haven't had time to sit down and play with it. And it was really actually Matt the Linux Cast is the one talking about his Fostodon. Uh, got me interested on it, and I went over there and set it up, but I haven't really played with it. So,
You need to,
but yeah,
because
I'm getting there.
a lot of open source. Postodon is the best place, or uh, Post all. I forgot the other name, but Postodon is where I am at, and there's a lot of good people over there. That's where the current developer of the Zero Hello tool. Well, that's where I
Oh,
found
no
him.
kidding. Awesome.
Yeah, he's
So
working on it. So,
send me a link to your Fostodon thing over there, and I will definitely work on joining that over there as well.
all right, I'll have your links anyway in the description of the video.
Okay, cool.
Send me everything you want me to put in the description. And
Hmm.
guys, if you have any questions for my next guest, let me know in the comments below. My next guest will be Voxtree from the Hyperland fame. So let me
Love
know
his
if you,
work.
yeah. So do we all.
Pass that
Uh,
pass that
Let me
on
know in
from
the
me.
comments below. And you too, if you, Alex, if you want to ask him anything, let me know in the comments below. Uh,
Excellent. I
all
will.
right. Well,
Thanks.
all right, guys. Take care, and I'll be seeing you on the next one. You'll find that on the on Patreon for now. In 2 weeks, it'll be live on for everyone to watch on YouTube.
Thanks,
All
my
right.
brother. Enjoy. Have a good one, and we'll talk later.
Peace.
Peace.